I'd like to take a moment just to express my admiration and appreciation of AMEC and of Barry. I had served on the National Board of the Public Relations Society of America in 2010 when the Barcelona principles were introduced, and I could speak firsthand on the impact that those principles have had in helping to advance our profession and really help position communications as a mature discipline when competing against many of the other functions out there. So congratulations, Barry, on your retirement. Thank you so much for having me here today. So as Barry mentioned, I'm Chief Communications Officer of Axis Capital. I joined the company just under 2 years ago, and at the time, Axis had done very little publicity. The company grew rapidly in about 18 years, and they were, at that point, 16 years, and the company had reached a size where it was no longer possible to not do any communications. So what I'm going to walk through today is the case study that I have to share of building a communications function during that journey of going from almost no publicity to being very assertive in the public eye and visible in the public eye, and speaking about the vital role that measurement has played every step of the way. And I probably need my clicker to take you through this. So, and also speaking about how, against the backdrop of this case study, we've faced tremendous change, and it's helped amplify the risks and rewards of the work that we've done. So just to give you a sense of Axis, we're a global player in the insurance and reinsurance space. We're in the mid-size category now, but rapidly growing. We have just over 30 offices across 14 countries. And what I'd like to point out, which I believe is particularly relevant, is in emerging areas of risk like renewable energy, cyber, markets like Latin America, MENA, APAC. We're growing. Those are specialty areas for us. Part of how we've differentiated ourselves is looking for opportunities where the nature of risk is changing. And during this time, if you just think about what's happening in the world, risk is transforming tremendously. So where we are on our journey, Axis was born in 2001 in the aftermath of September 11th. At the time, no one was writing aviation or terrorism risk for obvious reasons. Axis took a bold move, and the company was born during that time frame, wrote a lot of risk in those areas, and fortunately, there weren't any major incidents, or very few, in those early years, and the company grew quickly. Now we're positioned as a relevant player in the space. We compete with many of the large global players like the Chubbs and AIGs of the world, and as a mid-sized player, we're traveling down that journey to hopefully become a global leader. Now, what I should point out is that road has a lot of twists and turns, and I'm going to walk you through some of those during our discussion today. So when I joined the company in 2016, one of the first things that we did was outline clear objectives, and I actually brought on board an old friend, David Rockland and Ketchum, to help us outline, and I see David back there, another legend in the field. David and I had worked together for years in different jobs that I held, including PRSA, and I knew that in an industry where people are very focused on the numbers, being able to quantify our results would be absolutely critical. So for Axis, the objectives that we had, one was to help shape our narrative. We had been very quiet in the public eye, so part of what we wanted to do was begin to tell a story of who we are and really show us as an exciting company. There's a lot of perceptions of insurance being stodgy and a little bit boring. We want to show that we were dynamic and amplify and really illustrate that presence that we have in these emerging areas of risk. We also want to speak about our global reach and show the diversity of our staff, both from their racial background as well as their age background, an area that we're continuing to prioritize as we grow. Additionally, what I wanted to help drive forward with our function was increase our visibility and punch above our weight, meaning that's an American phrase for be able to compete with companies much bigger than ourselves in generating publicity and positive awareness on par with some of our larger competitors. And the third area was communicating effectively with our staff. As I mentioned before, we had grown to have a very wide presence across the world, and there hadn't been consistent communication with our team members. So in addition to outlining these objectives, we had very specific, measurable key performance indicators that we outlined right out of the gate so we'd be able to accurately and honestly say how we were performing against our goals. So I'm going to share with you right now a short video that helps show the brand that we were beginning to build and how we were telling our story.
Our customers are living in a world that's rapidly evolving.
The changing political environment,
cybersecurity,
demographic shifts across the globe.
I haven't begun to talk about rising sea levels.
Those are risks that didn't exist 15 years ago.
At Axis, our goal is very simple. We want to be a global leader in specialty risk.
We are firmly defined as a specialty insurance company. That's the kind of risk that we feel we do a better job of managing for our customers.
We're three different businesses: insurance, reinsurance, and A&H.
Our financial success is the product of very strong underwriting and prudent investment over our 15-year history.
We are client-focused, first and foremost. Every day we think about the client, the ultimate customer.
What I want our clients and our partners in distribution to know is that we will deliver on our promise, making sure that we give very rapid response to their requests for coverage, that we're creative in providing them with the coverage that they need.
So you get the idea. And we had many more videos where we went a little bit deeper, spoke a little bit about philanthropy, which I'll share in a bit, and began to tell a story of corporate purpose, which will become important shortly. Also, what we did was we built a modern intranet, and we began to communicate with our employees in video, because we saw that particularly for our younger employees, as well as employees across really all demographics, people just didn't have time to read the different articles we put out. So we used video quite a bit. Now, this is important. Almost immediately out of the gate, I received questions, which were really challenges on who's reading what you're putting out, who's watching the videos that you're issuing, who's going to our intranet, how has our visibility improved in the press. Right out of the gate, immediately, as I said before, we had those metrics, and it was very helpful in helping to continue to build upon the work that we were moving forward. Also, specific to purpose, coming from a background where I had done a lot of purpose-driven work, both at a prior in-house job as well as on the agency side, my team and I knew that there'd be an opportunity to leverage that to differentiate ourselves. So we began to roll out some philanthropic work. Immediately, when we introduced this, we received resistance, particularly from some of our colleagues who expressed concern that these messages wouldn't play well in parts of Europe, London, Zurich, areas where the American rah-rah wouldn't play over as well, and people just didn't care about philanthropy. I wasn't sure about that. Basically, we were able to prove that people cared, it galvanized people, and we had a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. I'm actually going to show you a snippet that just gives a sense of the level of participation that we started to generate once we scaled up this type of work. And it helped result both in positive awareness as well as making our people feel really good and really engaged. So again, I'm not going to you saw most of the video, but the point is we were able to, this was a campaign called Day of Giving, and the idea was across our offices, we challenged people over a 2-month period to donate 1 day to give back, and we helped give them the resources to be able to put forward local initiatives. So it was an example of a global campaign, meaning global and local. Global in scale, but empowering people to put a local twist on the work that we did. Had a tremendous amount of positive engagement. So this is an example of some of the dashboards that we've used. The top 2 are external with information redacted for competitive reasons. The bottom 2 are internal, but on a quarterly basis, we've been sharing with our executive committee how our work's been performing, while being very honest and transparent in what's working, what isn't, and how we're course correcting so we're able to do more of what's going well and pull back in the areas where we're not seeing the same impact, not seeing the same value. And I think having that honesty and that courage and that willingness to both speak about our failures as well as our successes has been important for credibility. It's also helped us do work that we could feel good about. So I spoke before about some of the twists and turns that we saw as we were rolling out this work. So I'm going to call out 4 specific examples. One is, as I mentioned, we were doing a tremendous amount of work to help grow our company. We made a material acquisition in London where we acquired a company called Novi. It immediately doubled our size in London and helped us, 1, increase our relevance, and 2, help grow our business in 2 emerging areas, renewable energy and cyber. With that acquisition, we immediately became a top 5 global player in cyber and a top 5 global player in renewable energy. Now, with an acquisition, I'm sure anyone here who's had experience with one knows that it's not an easy process. Ultimately, we know this was the right decision, great decision for our brand, but it's something that has really helped provide our comms team with a chance to show value, and it's kept us pretty busy. So I think also what's important is that the London market within the insurance sector has been challenged. Lloyd's has been challenged. This was a bold move, and we needed to be able to communicate and measure our progress in being able to help explain the arguments for growing our presence in a challenged market. And what we've seen almost a year later is that we had one of our best quarters last quarter. We're seeing a lot of progress come from the acquisition, being able to report internally and externally all the different ways that we've seen progress in addition to our corporate performance has been an important part of that story. Another item that I'm looking to, that I think is worth sharing is this sweeping image of data and analytics. In addition to the acquisition, we decided that we were going to we were excited that we were going to begin an effort to transform our business. Like many categories, digital, big data, AI is transforming the way we work. Not every, but almost every insurance company is going through some level of transformation. We decided with the acquisition happening, now is the perfect time for us to begin to transform our business and begin to incorporate big data into how we work, embrace artificial intelligence, and really enhance the way we work. From a communication standpoint, this is a message that, of course, we had to articulate very carefully and very strategically, both internally and externally, while very closely monitoring sentiment among our internal audiences, among our new employees through the company that we acquired, as well as very carefully monitor the message externally with our shareholders, with the media, with other influencers who cover our business, or who are familiar with our business. So again, this became part of our measurement strategy. Having that baseline foundation was critical to our work. This item right here, the people on the bridge, we have a major talent gap in our industry. So as we've grown bigger, we have a lot of jobs that we are looking to fill. Also, as we begin to bridge into data and analytics, we have a lot of new positions and new opportunities, roles that we're looking to source. The issue is that there's not that much talent in the insurance sector right now. So part of what we've been working very hard to do is work closely with our HR team and our marketing team to help promote our employer brand. And that work that we did before with purpose is coming in very handy now, because in order to attract millennials, there's such a priority that is placed on being able to speak about your values as an organization. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but we have a lot of the building blocks in place. Now, from a measurement standpoint, part of what we're going to be challenged to do in the coming year is show more directly how our comms work is helping to positively impact our recruitment efforts. This is going to be new terrain for us. So another item that I should share that I think is just an insight worth noting, because I don't think that we're unique as far as our increased presence or increased focus on corporate purpose, is the impact of the letter from Larry Fink, the CEO and chairman of BlackRock. If you're not familiar with it, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Larry Fink issued a letter that challenged organizations in the financial sector to make corporate purpose a part of their strategy and to measure purpose alongside alongside generating shareholder value and delivering a profit from a financial standpoint. This set off an earthquake in the financial sector. It helped drive a lot of, in addition to the interest in doing more purpose work to help motivate staff and support recruitment efforts, it's something that we saw this very powerful trend that was growing within our category. So in general, this is one other factor that's helping to drive this desire to do more work in purpose, and perhaps more importantly for this audience, be able to measure impact. Right now, as we look at purpose, we're taking a bottom line driven perspective on purpose. How are we impacting lives? How are we actually delivering the same return that you'd expect from a business standpoint with the work that we're doing from a philanthropic perspective, as well as all the other areas that fall within purpose when it comes to our corporate practices, our governance, sustainability, and all that falls under that umbrella. So as a result, our communications priorities now, as we prepare to enter our third year, and as Axis prepares to enter its third decade, have changed a bit. Part of what we're focusing on is strengthening and protecting our brand reputation. We've definitely have elevated our visibility, partly through the work that the communications team has done, but also through all of the visibility that was generated with the acquisition. So when it comes to certain areas, such as media and also such as social media, we're much more focused now on quality over volume, and when it comes to social media, much more focused on engagement versus reach. When we look at shaping the narrative, part of our narrative now is very focused around the transformation, making sure that we're able to show how illustrate how we're effectively delivering that message. And within that, when it comes to both that narrative, as well as positioning our executives as thought leaders, as I mentioned before, we've elevated our presence in London. We've elevated our presence in emerging areas of risk, like renewable energy and cyber. So we need to be able to very tangibly show how we've made progress in creating a positive message around our brand in those areas. And that's something that we're now in the early stages of measuring with the support of the Ketchum team. And growing our reputation as an employer of choice. This is something that we're now in the early stages of, but again, being able to link our communications work with our recruitment work, as well as with our ability to retain and grow our top talent, that's something that we're now in the process of studying. So as we enter this new phase of our measurement journey, the three areas that we're looking at, one is transformation. I already spoke to this, but measuring that impact. Two is talent, measuring the impact of how our work is directly impacting our talent efforts and growing our employer brand. And three is purpose, being able to very tangibly measure the impact of our purpose work. So with that, I'll now pass the floor to Barry so we could take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Very different style of presentation because of the nature of the company. Love that. So I'm looking for a question right on the front row, please. Microphone helper. Thank you. I'm looking for the second question already, with the microphone afterwards.
Okay. My name is Angel Aloza, Corporate Excellence Center for Reputation Leadership. So my question is related to that. You mentioned that you are entering into new kinds of risks. Are you interested in developing something around reputational risks?
Between reputational on risks?
Reputational risks,
Yeah.
covering reputational risks for companies.
That's something that we've spoken about. Thank you. So when it comes to reputational risks, I think right now what we hope to do in the future as we do more work as it relates to thought leadership is looking at larger trends such as reputational risks. But and we see that as probably the next stage in our journey. At this point, we've been so focused on telling our own story that we haven't been able to get there yet, but that is a direction that we'd like to head in. Very good question.
Okay, thank you, Angel. There's a question just here, please. Sorry for me pointing. Siki, put your hand up. That's it.
Actually, no, I do want to finish one thought, though. When it comes to cyber specifically, which is an area where we focused, one of the big impacts of cyber is when you have a big threat or a big incident, it could tremendously impact your corporate reputation. So that is an area where we've begun to do some work and some thought leadership. I'm sorry, the question over there?
Thank you very much. My name is Stefan Rufenach. I'm a consultant for RAID GmbH in Germany. First of all, congratulations. This is really good work, and thanks for sharing your insights there. One question, the philanthropic activities that you showed us and the dashboards there, these seem to be short-term outcomes here of these activities. Did you also measure a long-term impact on the corporate culture, collaboration among employees, and how these events or these activities affected these KPIs?
That's a fantastic question. We're in the process of doing that right now. So around about a year and a half ago, we did our first employee engagement survey, and we've now been tracking that work against the benchmark. We've also been benchmarking our external work. The issue is that we didn't have those initial benchmarks in place, but as we're beginning to do more and more continuous measurement, we're beginning to see the actual outcomes. But we're on that part of the journey right now.
And Joe, you see behind you our sketch notice interpretation of your presentation. Very cool stuff.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.